name's Speedy. I'll be talking about Scenario 1, the technological advances changing universities, and more specifically the area of virtual reality technology. Virtual reality technology is basically an electronic or computer-based simulation of any environment, situation, or experience. It's typically recognized as the head-worn technology, which is basically just the head-mounted panoramic display. So currently it's being used primarily as an entertainment source. As it's a new platform, this is really the only sector it falls into. However, in terms of education, it is used in some medical and engineering training. Below are just some photos of examples of how it may be used for that. So for 2036, factors that we can see for virtual reality technology are definitely the convenience. For example, a student can learn both on and off campus, but on top of that, a lecturer or tutor can both teach on or off campus. It's definitely more affordable in the sense that the virtual reality technology could replace computers in a university. It could also replace physical products for any practical work, as it virtually creates any kind of experience or product or situation. It's extremely interactive. Virtual reality can allow students to do things they normally couldn't do on campus to a great extent. However, on top of all this, one negative outcome that could potentially arise from virtual reality technology being used at universities is it could lead to redundancy in some lecturers and tutors. So this is just a video of myself. This is not as much an example of how virtual reality technology is used, but more the message it's creating, how you can learn both on campus and also get the same experience, if not a better experience, using the virtual reality technology. And that's virtual reality technology.
Scenario 1 discusses the technological advances that have affected Australian unis by the year 2036, including artificial intelligence. This relates to the development of intelligence agents that observe the surrounding environment and take action to achieve a certain outcome. But how does AI relate to Australian universities? An expert once said,
"And I believe that our education system needs to go beyond the pure knowledge transfer. We need to find smarter ways to facilitate that, and we need to change our universities into a real training ground."
Artificial intelligence has created several opportunities for Australian unis, including continuing to provide employment for lecturers and tutors, developing more engaging and interactive techniques for students, including robotics and smart classrooms, and combining physical and virtual classrooms to allow for more personalised learning experiences. Issues and concerns still exist, including a fear of unemployment, and the undertraining of teachers in a technologically changing world, and an inadequate development of skills that prepare students for future work. To diminish these concerns, it is recommended that there is an increase of government funding, that there is increased coordination amongst traditional and innovative learning techniques, and ensuring skills learned by students are applicable to future work.
The second scenario we have looked at is the expansion of Australian universities and student diversity. The two key points that I will discuss in this scenario are government policies and funding, and also the point of competitive business landscape. 2036 is a year in which the government policy and funding of both universities and university students is continuing to adapt and change, with the Australian government launching a new campaign in the year 2030, which has encouraged young Australian university students to experience uni overseas. We have since seen a 12% increase in the number of Australian students who have travelled overseas for study. Another government policy is the change to the student visa conditions in 2036 to increase the student diversity in Australia. This policy will see students afforded the benefits of stay longer in Australia as a study, an increase from 1 semester to 2 semesters, and also being able to work longer hours whilst overseas. In 2036, the competitive business landscape has changed enormously for universities in Australia and around the world, with the introduction of the new dominant university, the University of Australia. This will drive increased competition among universities to better their standards and provide a better, well-rounded university experience, whilst also encouraging students to strive to attend the most prestigious unis in overseas countries.
In 2019, the University of Australia was introduced, with campuses in 5 locations around Australia. The introduction of the University of Australia was the final straw for some universities, however, who decided to go a step further and expand globally to where we see them today, in the US and China, in order to compete. These 2 countries combined with Australia formed a partnership into research for universities, which has monumentally improved the range of information available to university students. These bold moves to expand globally by Australian universities, especially UTS and Bond University, have also seen a rise in cultural diversity in the last 15 years. The stronger global relationships with other universities have resulted in more global students than ever taking the opportunity to study abroad. Due to the higher rate of student diversity and international students, Australian universities currently offer more standardised courses. This has enabled students to more easily adapt into different business environments, both within the Australian workforce and on the global scale. Australian universities also offer interstate travel as part of their courses under the HECS scheme at lower costs. These new policies and adjustments to funding schemes have seen the current day university student experience a top quality education with the best facilities and services possible.
Global Downfall, Scenario 3 by Albert Treen and Jake Foster.
Good evening. The global financial crisis is affecting financial markets right around the world, including Australia. More than 25 banks around the world have failed or have been bailed out. Share markets around the world have suffered large losses. And the reality is, in recent days, we have entered a new and damaging stage in the global financial crisis, with real impacts on economic growth and jobs around the world, and with real impacts on economic growth and jobs here in Australia as well.
It is 2036. The world is currently in an economic crisis. The Australian economy is in a recession with global warming on the rise. There is increased pressure on the government to promote economic activity. The Australian government has chosen to implement a stimulus package, placing the country into further debt. The government looks to reduce the financial burden of the stimulus package through a reduction in expenditure in sections such as education, which are no longer a high priority. Government policies. The Australian government no longer has the ability to fund all sectors in the Australian economy. With growing political pressure, funding to Australian universities is no longer of political importance. The Australian government has chosen to abolish the Students' Help Loan Scheme, as costs now outweigh the current benefits. Due to reduced funding, universities now lack the ability to undergo additional research. Consumer behaviour and future implications. The abolishment of the students' loans has resulted to an increase in higher education fees. University students can no longer rely on the HELPS and HECS. International students no longer come to Australia to complete education. Domestic students lack the ability to immediately resume their studies at universities after high school. Most are forced into jobs to finance their further education.
Scenario 3, Global Downfall, not only posits a future impacted by government policies and funding, but by global incidents. These global incidents are ones that will affect the world as a whole. They can include things such as global warming and the global financial crisis. The impacts of climate change have and inevitably will continue to affect all divisions of life.
Global warming is the continuing rise in the average temperature of Earth's climate system.
Through the
In 2036, the global financial crisis has seen the largest and sharpest drop in global economic activity of the modern era,